Hey, girlfriends, how are you today? We are going to have a brave conversation. And this one, I was telling our guest, Carol Pilkington, that this has opened up a can of worms for me because we're going to be talking about cycles. And how they maybe aren't complete. And so we're going to be going into that. But let me introduce our guest today. Carol is a spiritual and metaphysical teacher, transpersonal astrologer. I had never heard of that term before, so this is all new to me. With over 30 years of combined training in spirituality, astrological counseling, personal development, and deep transformational work, Carol works with high-achieving entrepreneurs and business owners who are living in a state of anxiety, depression, grief, loss, and feeling isolated. She shows them how to move through and beyond so they can live life with more presence, energy, and joy. Welcome, Carol. I'm so glad to have you here today.
Thank you. It's been a long time coming, it feels, and yet I'm so excited.
Yes. And so ladies, if you're not familiar with these kind of conversations, we're going to be walking through her resource, her worksheet that is in the Brave magazine. And it's our 4th edition. So we'll put the links in all the right places for you to go get your free subscription to the magazine. And you'll want to print this off. I did, and I printed it off and I highlighted it and I wrote on it. So we're going to walk through it a little bit. So if you don't have your copy yet, we're going to give you a little sneak peek into what this is all about. So Carol, just tell us, how are you doing today?
I am doing great. My day started off beautifully, and I'm just really so excited to have this conversation. It's a subject matter that's near and dear to my heart and changed my life.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about, just give us kind of an overview of this little resource that you've put in our hot little hands.
Absolutely. It's a way to help clear the mind, complete conversations, complete things that, the ruminations that go on in the mind. Completing cycles of action helps rid you of all of that. It helps quiet the mind so that you can become more creative and more present to the life that you're living right here, right now. And it's something that has changed my life forever. When I began seeing life through this concept of completing cycles of action, and it just helped me enormously. And basically, a cycle has a beginning, middle, and end. And it affects every aspect of our life, personal, professional, every aspect. And so when this concept came to me and I started working with it and began seeing how many cycles were still left open-ended, it was like my mission in life to start completing and ending these cycles to the best of my ability. And this is something that I also want to talk about later on with regards to doing things to the best of our ability. When we know we've done something to the best that we know how to at any given time, we can actually put a period at the end of it and no longer think about it, no longer ruminate about it. And that's so important.
Yeah, and I think in part of this too, so ladies, this is called the, what is it?
Oh gosh, completion framework.
Yeah, completion framework. And it's about getting through these cycles. So I'm really curious about, is there, first of all, the ladies listening, is there something that maybe you think in your own mind that maybe isn't quite complete? And when I started reading this, like I said, it really opened up a can of thoughts, worms, whatever for me, because especially around completing cycles of communication, I have avoided communicating on certain subjects because I don't like conflict. Mm-hmm. I like things to be nice and fluffy, and I like everybody to feel good and all that kind of stuff. So, and I can reflect back onto times where I didn't speak up. Because one, I was afraid because I know a lot of people who are really type A personalities, and I knew they could win the converse, the debate or whatever, it would become a debate, or so I would just avoid things and just hope that it would go away. But like you were talking about, so Carol goes through some different manifestations, how this comes out in you and how if it's not complete. And, some of the things that you talk about are sleeplessness, disruption of, your sleep, your energy, chronic, not having any energy, all these different things that we'll go into here in just a second. But yeah, I have, when I'm thinking back on some of those conversations, it's this weird feeling that's kind of just sitting on my chest, and it's still there.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
And I'm like, oh, that's what she's talking about. When something isn't complete, when you kind of just let it sit there and avoid it, or whatever that might look like for you. So Carol, tell us a little bit, what are some of the things, if something isn't complete, tell us a few of the examples of how that might feel for somebody or how that might be showing up in their life.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I was saying, I call it the crew that never rests. Those conversations that keep going on in the mind, and we go over the woulda, shoulda, couldas, and it creates tension in our body. It creates energy leaks. We're leaking energy all over the place, so it tires us out. It creates sleeplessness on, all of these physical manifestations, but then it has an emotional and mental impact on us as well, because we feel that we are unable to make clear decisions when our mind is so cluttered with all these incomplete cycles. And we avoid things, and we avoid people, right? Like you were saying before.
Yeah.
And we feel paralyzed and powerless. So when we can complete cycles, we can feel accomplished. We can feel like we can breathe again. So, and it affects our relationships. It affects everything.
Yes. And so girls, here's an example for me, because I walked through this earlier this morning, and like I said, it really brought up a lot of things for me. And here's one of my patterns that I do is I'll sit and have a conversation with myself. And that's where I get stuck. And I'll just sit and have that conversation over and over. And then I feel really powerful because I said this, but I never really said it to the person. Or never had the conversation, I'm still holding it, and I'm still having a conversation in my car with myself about that particular thing. And I'm ruminating on it, waiting for the right moment or waiting for the right words to come, all these different things. So that's what I love about this. It's challenging us to maybe take that one brave step. And that's what I love about this is you kind of tell us how it's, how it might be coming up in us, but then you give us a little framework to kind of see where we're at.
Yes, exactly.
And that's what, that's the brave step. So maybe your brave, girls listening, maybe your brave step today is just to read this.
Right. So one of the things that's really important is to recognize that you are feeling complete about something, that you are stuck. So identifying what is the cycle. So for something like you're describing before, an incomplete conversation, right?
Right.
How do we resolve the conflict? Sometimes whoever is out there listening, you might not be able to resolve it with another person. You're only able to resolve it within yourself, right? So you might not be able to have a conversation with someone, that difficult conversation. So what do you do in those situations? What I have done is to first identify what it is that's still triggering me about the conversation, right? And then I look at, once I've identified the trigger, is it about my own feeling, my own interpretation, my own perception of what occurred. If it's that, well, it's always our own perception, right?
Yeah.
Let's be real. But then I take a look and see, do I really need to have that conversation with the person? Or is it just affecting me? Because, people go on with their lives and they don't even think about anything anymore. And you're still there mulling it over, right? So
Right.
how do I resolve the conflict within me? Right? I take responsibility, number one, for how I feel, maybe for what I said or what I perceived was said to me. And I take responsibility for my feelings around that. And then if I feel like I have to have that conversation, I make sure that I'm coming from my own experience versus, starting the conversation off with, well, you said this and you did this. Right off the bat, I put that person on the defensive and feel like they're being attacked, right? So what I do is I say, we had this conversation and something was said that I perceived and it upset me. And this is what I felt. So I'm right off the bat taking full responsibility for what I heard and how I received it.
Great tips. Great
Yeah.
tips. Yeah. What I really love that you said, though, is that maybe it's the conversation with yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love that. And then going to and finding, I think sometimes we don't take that perspective of, oh, wait, it's my perspective on this.
Yes.
And that person might not have seen it at all like that. Or maybe it's even, not something that is something of conflict, but just something that needs to be brought up. Just a conversation that needs to be had. But I love that going to those feelings too. What is it bringing up in you?
Mm-hmm. Right. I had a situation years ago with a friend, very, very close friend of mine. She had been carrying this something around with her for like 3 or 4 years. And one day she just finally decided that she was going to bring it up to me. And so she mentioned it, she talked about it. And I can tell you that I never recalled a darn thing about it. I had no freaking idea what she was talking about, literally. And so all I did was listen. And I didn't even need to apologize. All she wanted was to be heard.
Oh.
She wanted me to receive what she felt about the situation. And I said, thank you for bringing it up. Thank you for having the courage to approach me with it. And I did say that I'm sorry that you had to carry this within you for so long.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that you've finally have been able to bring it up and release it.
Yes. So here's a great question I think you're bringing up, though, too, is that not just how if you're bringing up the conversation, how it made that, maybe how you're feeling or whatever, but what is it that you're really looking for, too, that feeling?
Mm-hmm.
Are you looking for validation? Are you looking to be heard? What is that? Because you also put that into the conversation. It's like, I'm just venting. I just need to let this out. I just need to, I'm not looking for a resolution or a solution or, realizing those feelings too, that also play a part in it, and not just how the conversation is making you feel or it's, the difficulty or whatever, but, what is it you're really looking for out of it?
Exactly. So when you can become clear about all the nuances of the situation, then you can go into the conversation, if you're wanting to have that conversation with the person, with clarity.
Yeah.
And you're not triggered. You're coming from a non-reactive state. And you can be open to whatever happens. You can express clearly, and you can receive with openness.
Yeah, that's great. Yes. And so then the next step that you talk about, the step 3, is remove internal resistance. What emotion, belief, or fear is present that's preventing movement?
Yes.
Okay, there's my big one. That's my big one. Because I get stuck and I just don't have it, because have been such a people pleaser, and I don't know if anybody else might be one out there, or a recovering people pleaser. Or I should say, up until now, I have been one. I'm in a new space, but I'm so triggered by other people's emotional response to what I say.
Mm.
And I take and I feel like I'm responsible for that. And I know I'm not, but that's something I'm still overcoming. But that can stop me in my tracks.
Yes.
How do you move past this
Absolutely.
little spot here?
Yes, I can totally relate to that. I was absolutely a people pleaser. I wanted to accommodate everybody's feelings and emotions and thoughts.
Yeah.
And there came a time when I realized that how people receive something, what they feel, what they think is none of my business.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, when I got that, and in one sense, it pissed me off.
Yeah.
and then in another way, after I really got it, I felt such a freedom that I didn't have to be responsibility. I didn't have to take on their stuff on top of what I was feeling about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that made all the difference in the world. What they say, what they do, how they feel is none of my business.
Yeah.
I can't do anything about it.
Right. Right. If what I sometimes just laugh at this, because going through I've had a lot of transitions in my 50s and up until now. And it's taken me till 65 to finally realize some of this and to put it into practice. And I still have a long ways to go. We continue growing, and especially around communication. It's really, it's really an art, but yeah, it's hard. It's hard. So
It is.
so girls, if you haven't arrived yet, it's okay. We're in growth process, and we can take and use the shopping cart method. What works best for you? But here's some really great spots where you can become aware. Go into those feelings and see where you're at, and have that perspective, as Carol was talking about. And here's a little way to remove that internal resistance.
Exactly. Give yourself grace. It's really about giving yourself grace.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. So as we become aware of that internal resistance, and then it says act with intention.
Mm-hmm.
Tell us a little bit about that.
Wow. Like I was saying, when you are finally clear about all the emotions and feelings that you're going through about it, then you can intentionally have a conversation or intentionally close the cycle within yourself. You can decide at that moment whether you really need to have a conversation with another person or not, right?
I love it. Yeah.
Let yourself off the hook.
Right.
Just let yourself off the hook and be intentional about where you're coming from about it. Is it your mind saying that it's your fault when it could be nobody's fault at all? But just taking responsibility for our own reactions to things and our own responses, it can help us complete the cycle right there and then. When we end the conflict within ourselves, conflict always begins and ends within ourselves. We might never be able to complete it with another.
Yeah.
So complete it with yourself first. And then if you feel it necessary for yourself or for the other to have a conversation, then do so. I always think about it as do no harm. Do no harm to yourself, do no harm to another. If it's gonna kick up another storm, then don't have a conversation with the other person. Just complete it within yourself. Because sometimes another person doesn't have the listening for what you want to say.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
They can't hear it.
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah, exactly. But when you first started talking about this act with intention, you know what word came up for me? Relief.
Yes.
Like, oh, it's like I thought I was supposed to do all these things. And, you're supposed to have a conversation and address these things and use your voice. And maybe it's the conversation with yourself you're supposed to first have.
Yes.
Yeah.
Exactly. It always starts there.
Wow. So step 5, closing the loop.
Mm-hmm. So having a concluding conversation, like I said, if you feel that you need to do that with the other, document it, put it in if you feel like you don't want to have the actual conversation with the person, write a letter to the person. And whether you send it or not, it's out of your mind and it's there in black and white for you to see. That's something that you can do.
Yeah. And you know what, for me, so I'm kind of using my own example here because, like I said, this opened up a space for me today. One of the things that, as we're walking through this too, I'm realizing that it's not the conversation that is so important. It's really what boundaries do I need to set for myself? What am I available? What am I not available for? Because that is a different conversation than the one I thought I needed to have.
Oh, that's terrific.
And I thought, maybe I need to sit down and have a little conversation with myself and see what the real conversation really does need to be. Because I'm reacting to a situation versus just taking a look at the facts and dealing with what the facts are and how do I walk within those facts that have happened. Wow. This is like, that's thanks huge. For the council session today. Yes. And then step 6, integrate. What does that look like?
Integrating means that you've gone through the steps of identifying what the cycle is and what the nuances of the trigger is, the conflict is, and you've gained clarity and you have decided what the nature of the action or inaction should be. And once you've done all that, you can feel a sense of relief, like you said. You can feel like there's more air to breathe.
Yeah.
Right? Your shoulders come back down. Your stomach doesn't feel tight and nauseated any longer. So there's an integration process that happens after you feel complete about it. And you put that period at the end where you no longer have to think about it any longer. That becomes an integration process. And that becomes a jumping off point, if you will, for all other situations in your life.
Yes. And I love this piece because I kind of think of it in 2 different ways. It's kind of like celebration, celebrate that you got to this point. Yeah. And then one of the things that I always talk about too is put it in your book of proof. This is a brave act. And, we talk about being brave here. That's that everyday brave. It's about having this conversation with yourself or maybe with somebody else or addressing a situation. And realize that, girls, that takes bravery to walk through these steps here and, see what your truth is, where you're at.
That's so right on. We need to acknowledge the things, the processes that we go through and the understandings that we come to around these areas of life. Because when we don't, then everything becomes the same and there's no shift, there's no change. We can't see it. So it's so important for us to acknowledge it.
Yes. And so, ladies, right now, if you were listening, think back of a time where you got through something where it's like, hey, I did get through that hard conversation and then it ended up either one way or another. And that's the thing. Sometimes when we have these hard communications and conversations, they don't always end rosy and beautiful. You also, when you bring up a conversation, there may be other consequences. Maybe that person walks away.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to be ready for that as well.
Oh, yes, that's right. And sometimes in the back of our minds, that's like death, right?
Mm-hmm. And that's one of those resistance. Sometimes we don't want to have that conversation because that person might walk away.
That's exactly right.
Or might not like us or allow us accept who we are or whatever those consequences might, or, of the conversation might be.
That's so true. And we just have to know that in any given moment, we've done the best we can with what we have and the knowledge that we have and the resources that we have. It's so important to really allow ourselves to release these feelings of, I didn't do enough. I didn't say enough. I said the wrong thing. I said it in the wrong way. Oh my goodness, God.
The list goes on. I know.
Yeah.
Yes. And Carol, you said too, the resources. That's what this magazine, the Brave magazine, is all about, is just 10-minute little resource. Take a look at Carol's here. I walked through this morning and it opened up something for me that really needed to be dealt with. And I walked through this process. And so I had some realizations, and even here, just talking with you right now too, I'm like, oh yeah, I'm actually writing little notes along as I go here too. And I thought, okay, this is all right. I can do this because I have a little process here. I have somebody that I can reach out to and walk through this worksheet. And that's what it's all about, knowing that you don't have to do it alone.
Absolutely. We're not alone. And these feelings and these various conflicts, the context may be different, but it's universal in nature. We're human beings and we interact with one another all the time. And we're not always going to see things eye to eye. No. And that's okay. We have to accept that. We have to accept it for ourselves and accept it in another.
Yeah, exactly. So, here's a quote that is on your worksheet too that really spoke to me. The biggest communication problem is we do not listen to understand. We listen to reply.
Mm-hmm.
So if we did start listening to understand, our perspective might be different coming out of a conversation.
Right. Absolutely.
Yes. So we talked about communication, and we're going to wrap up here in a second. But so the cycles of communication, does this framework work for other situations besides communication?
Oh my goodness. It works for everything in life. When you, as a business owner, we create these projects. Well, the beginning of the cycle is the idea. And then we map out the steps to bring it to fruition. And each one of those steps is a cycle. So there are cycles within cycles within cycles. So you've got the big cycle, and then you've got the cycles that bring it all together.
Mm-hmm.
And when we go through when we see it as a big whole picture, we might become overwhelmed by all the things that need to be done, right? Yes. And each various step might take hours, some might take minutes. But when we take each one by one, and we do the best we can in any given moment with it, we can put a period at the end of it and say, I'm done for now.
Oh,
I'm done for now. You might need to add to it, refine it a little bit later on. You might be interrupted by a phone call while you're in the middle of it. Even in that moment, you can say, I've done what I can for now. That clears the mind, and it opens you up to be present to whatever is being introduced in that moment.
Yes. So I actually applied this step 3, removal of internal resistance, because I am working on the next issue of the Brave magazine. I got stuck. I got creatively stuck. And I thought, what is my resistance? Because I could actually feel the resistance.
Mm-hmm.
And it was totally blocking my creativity in being able to actually take any action. And I thought, I've got to work through this somehow. And so I had to go really ask myself, what is my resistance? What is holding me back? And I had to go step outside and breathe some fresh air and discover what it was that was blocking. And I had to change my self talk to myself, because I was saying it was hard or I couldn't do it. And so I had to switch it around and go, there's nothing in my way. And I just literally, like you said, I felt like my shoulders dropped. I could breathe again because I was holding my breath. And I'm like, oh, wait, this is really easy.
That's awesome. Yeah, you come to realize that maybe the inspiration or the idea of completing that particular task is not ready to come through yet. So it just needs to rest and sit with it for a little bit. Allow for that. Allow for that space, right?
I did. And I did that yesterday. I said, I am going to go swimming. I said, I need to put this all down, let it breathe, go swim. And I did, even though I was on a super tight timeline. I thought, I don't really have time to go swim, and I thought, no. And then I came back, sat and lit a little candle, created a cozy little spot, and started creating again.
Mm-hmm.
It opened up some doors.
Exactly. So you completed that cycle in that moment and then came back to it and was open to being able to complete it.
Yes.
Huge.
Yes, it is huge. In fact, I'm going to celebrate that because I just finished right before we got on here that particular one that I was working on. And it's like, and it turned out beautiful. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, it's so lovely. So, and, because we want to do well, we want our thing to be just right. And so, Carol, this is a beautiful conversation. Ladies, I hope that the magazine is a free subscription. Just go download it. You have an option to print this off as a PDF. So you can, like me, write all over it, write your little notes and walk through things. And it's just really beautiful. Or you can have the magazine as a flip magazine. So either way, we just hope that you enjoy it. We hope that you walk through these resources. They're little 10-minute resources, ladies, but they are life-changing. Carol, thank you so much for coming, chatting with us, walking us through this, and being a part of something that's going to touch some women's lives and help them take a brave step going forward.
My pleasure. Thank you so much. I love talking about this subject.
Yeah. All righty. Well, ladies, we will see you next time on the Being Brave Tour. Bye now.